Here we are, ready for another week with the Bill Saying podcast, and today talking about a topic that you might be annoyed by for one reason or another, either on one end or the other, I guess I should say, and that being student loans. Again, we're going to talk a little bit more about abortion and another argument used primarily by the left to try to push the abortion agenda, and also a quick question of what does it mean to win a debate. All this on the Bill Saying podcast. In all frankness, I think we need to just go ahead and investigate universities. I think that we need to just go ahead and investigate what all of this student loan money is going toward inside of universities. We'll get more into that in a moment, but this is the Bill Saying podcast. My name is Bill Saying. I look forward to having this conversation with you today, telling you my views on these topics, and some of them might be popular, other ones might not be so popular. And for some of the people listening out there, it might be more popular than others. And obviously, I'm right-leaning, I'm more conservative, and so this topic today about student loans is going to be an interesting one. I'm curious to hear what people have to think about it. But then again, I've been kind of on sort of a series unintentionally just because the topic keeps on coming up about abortion and the pro-abortion movement, namely that there's all these arguments to try to justify having an abortion. And I have the question on here that, what if it is inconvenient for the parents and the information presented that, it's cheaper to have an abortion than just to have the baby because that might put undue stress on your finances by actually having the baby. Okay, we'll talk about that momentarily, but first thing I would talk about, it is a very quick hitter, and that would be and by the way, this topic and the one I just mentioned were both ones that arose as I was listening to the Matt Walsh show. And the question is, what does it mean to win a debate? Because I happened to hear him say, because it threw me for a loop when I heard him say it, that something along the lines of that. Well, the way that he said it was that essentially that winning a debate is akin to changing the other person's mind. And when he said it, my mind was kind of afloat because he wasn't clarifying what he meant by winning the debate. And so as he went on, eventually he got to the mind you, he wasn't trying to make this point. He was talking about a specific issue. And so as he's talking here, my mind is kind of like, what does he mean that you can still win the debate and whatever it was, something along the lines of, oh goodness, I can't remember exactly how I worded it, but again, I remember that as he was talking, I'm thinking like, what is he talking about right now? Because winning a debate does not mean that you are changing the other person's mind. Now to us, that's typically what we think, that winning a debate is when we are debating with somebody, you win the debate when you change that person's mind. That is not my mentality when I get into debates with people. My getting into debates with people are for one of two reasons. And I've never done a formal debate. I think it'd be fun to do a formal debate. I'm open to doing a formal debate on just about any topic that at least I'm familiar with. But I enter into a debate myself for one of two reasons. Either A, I think the truth is worth standing up for. That there are certain things that are worth fighting for. And when I say fight, I mean in terms of ideologically, in terms of verbally debating, arguing about a topic. There's some things most of the time when I'm talking with somebody, I disagree with them on something. If it's not important to me what we are talking about in terms of the issue and I disagree with them, lots of times I'll just be like, whatever, just keep on talking. I won't say that, but in my mind, that's what I'll be saying is just keep on talking. I'm just going to ignore that you happen to say that, or I don't know you well enough to debate you on this, or the other reason that I might debate somebody is not to change that person's mind. In no way, I mean, rarely ever, okay, pretty much never do I debate somebody anymore. I mean, I used to, But anymore, I never debate anybody for the sake of changing their mind, because once they have shown that they are argumentative, they're not trying to get to the truth. They're trying to justify their position. And so the second reason that I get into a debate with people is to change other people's minds. If there is an audience of some sort, other people around listening in, that my intention isn't to change the mind of the person I'm debating with. I don't know that I've ever changed anybody's mind. I've given some people some fruit for thought. But again, that's not even a matter of debate. That is a conversation. There is a huge difference between a conversation where you're able to present information to people on a topic that can sway their opinions in their mind versus a debate where they are coming at you with their ideological point of view on any given topic. And their goal is not to have their mind changed. Their goal is to justify themselves. And they're kind of trying to change your mind too. More or less, most of the time, the left, what they do, they try to shame you into believing what they believe. And I guess in some respects, maybe that's what people on the right do as well. But for me, like I said, I don't try to change people's minds on these things. That my aim when I get into a debate with somebody is that either A, that the truth is just simply worth standing up for, or B, I'm trying to change the minds of the people who are listening in on us. Because when people listen in on a debate between two people, they are lots of times thinking about what you're saying and trying to make up their mind. But sometimes even that is futile, as sometimes they're just they've already made up their mind on the topic and they just want to hear one person or the other score more points. So that's that. So the second one, Matt Walsh was it was in his cancellation portion, and it was fascinating to me again. And he made a good point, by the way. I'm not at all saying that Matt Walsh was wrong on his assertions. It was in his cancellation section, his cancellation portion of his show, and this was a little while back. I know I like to listen to old stuff sometimes just for the fun of it, just to hear what people had to say. And the person that was in his cancellation section that he was covering had made the argument that it is cheaper to get an abortion because not having an abortion for people could reap economic hard times for them. That by not having an abortion, it can be a strain on you financially. And of course, his conclusion, as well as mine, is like, well, duh. You don't give birth to a baby because it is economically beneficial to you. You don't give birth to a baby because it's going to make times easier. You give birth because that's how God created us. That's how God created women. That's how God created mankind to be, is to the way that we procreate is that things happen. I put it like that. Women get pregnant and they have babies. And if they didn't, humanity would go extinct. This is how God designed things. And yes, of course, abortion is cheaper than having the baby, because having the baby means that you're going to be paying for the baby's food and diapers and clothes and medical visits. So when they say that it's can be economically straining for somebody to have a baby opposed to getting an abortion, that's what they're saying. And they're saying that if you had the abortion, well, it's gone. One-time payment, kind of expensive, but one-time payment, and your troubles are over. Now, what a bleak look at humanity, that we can devalue life so much as to say that, you know what? If life is not financially convenient for somebody, we should just end the life that is burdening them. This is kind of a take to some degree on, Scrooge. Ebenezer Scrooge from the Christmas Carol. And when he says, decrease the surplus population in relation to Tiny Tim, that basically, okay, well, Tiny Tim is useless. He's worthless. He's not a contributing member to society. And because of that, he's just a strain on everybody else around him, particularly his family. So let him die and decrease the surplus population. And that is very much the attitude of this sentiment that, you know what, financially, it is not convenient. And so, you know what, it's better just to decrease the surplus population, that population that we just can't afford to take care of. Well, let's just get rid of them. Horrible. Absolutely horrible. Absolutely disgusting. I'm finding a kindred spirit in Matt Walsh. I very much appreciate his opinions, and lots of times before he gets to his conclusions, I'm already saying what I think. I'm already concluding in my own mind, like, yeah, this is akin to that. And then he'll say exactly what I'm thinking. I'm like, oh my goodness, good. I mean, I know that he's thought out his positions. He doesn't get paid the money and have the show he does and have the following he does without being well-read, well-thought, and just a very, very, very brilliant mind. So I very much appreciate the Matt Walsh Show quite a bit. And again, I just appreciate people bringing to light the absurdity of the abortion arguments, the pro-abortion arguments. And he actually, I'll go ahead and I'll plug it this way in saying that his argument against this reasoning was that, so babies that are inconvenient financially for a family should be aborted. Well, okay, so life that is financially inconvenient to people should be aborted. Okay, well, why do we stop it at birth? Let's take it to the homeless population. You know what? If there is strain on society economically, financially, well, if you say that it's okay to abort babies, then maybe we should abort homeless population. And again, it's a horrible, horrible thought. And the principle that he is teaching through this idea is, well, the reason why we don't do that is because murder is wrong. And just because the baby isn't born doesn't mean it's not murder. And there's a rabbit hole you can go down. Consciousness versus non-conscious. And that is one of the things where I was kind of proud, where I was thinking, she said that, some people say that, well, you know what, the baby's not conscious yet. And I thought to myself, well, yeah, but if we use the reason of not being conscious, not being aware that somebody's going to kill you, then they can kill you in your sleep. And within a few sentences, he says, yeah, too bad for you if you happen to ever go to sleep. And I'm like, thank you. Exactly what I'm talking about. That just because you're not aware that somebody is murdering you, it does not make it morally okay for them to murder you. And just because somebody's not aware that you're planning on murdering them, it does not make it morally okay for you to murder them. I mean, this should be obvious, people. This should be, again, this is why I say that the pro-life stance is the easiest one to defend. It's so logical, so reasonable, so good, so pure. What can be more pure of a cause than defending the lives of babies? I mean, some people would argue puppies, but those aren't humans. Puppies are not humans. And so the most just cause that there could be on the planet, outside of spreading the good news of Jesus Christ, is perhaps defending the lives of babies. Man, to me, there's not even a question in my mind in terms, I would be a one-issue voter if it came down to that, really. In most cases. Okay, maybe it depends on who the person is, and frankly, what party they're in, and lots of other factors, but more or less, pro-life is my number one political issue, because it's not a political issue. It's an ideological issue. It's a biblical issue. And the Bible is, regardless of what the liberal scholars say, it is overwhelmingly pro-life. Overwhelmingly pro-life. If you read the Bible from cover to cover, the Bible is overwhelmingly pro-life. Okay. Time to get to our probably most annoying topic that I have ever talked about, and I've talked about it numerous times. That being the student loan debt crisis. I've heard that Donald Trump is talking about and maybe even accomplished this idea that if you have not paid back your student loans, that he's going to start garnishing your wages so that you pay back your student loans. And, you know, being somebody who's gone through the college education system, may or may not be affected in the future by this, you know what I have to say to that? I say, you know what? Maybe that's not a bad idea. Maybe that's not a bad idea. Because, frankly, I believe that everybody should pay back their student loans. Having said this, I do have to say that I'm somewhat annoyed by those who are affluent and by those who are from a past generation talking down to people who have taken out student loans that are struggling to pay them back. One of my favorite people to listen to is Bo Snerdley. He was Rush Limbaugh's phone person. He screened phone calls for Rush Limbaugh, and I listen to him a lot. And he's one of these guys that really gets animated about this topic, and really, I'm sorry, Bo, but you disparage people that took out these loans when they're young. And you know what? I understand you think that they should have understood their loans when they took them out. Let's be honest, most 18-year-olds don't. Most 18-year-olds don't understand. Now, what they also were not brought up to believe was that from that point on, regardless, right, wrong, and different, they are responsible for paying back those student loans. Granted, that is totally and absolutely true. But instead of attacking the people that took out the student loans, I think that having a degree of more sympathy for them would be warranted. I mean, we're all against scams, right? We're all against scams. Like if somebody was legitimately going around scamming everybody, wouldn't you investigate that person? Wouldn't you say that, hey, why are you ripping people off? And wouldn't that person be liable, you say, to go to jail? Well, that's the real issue. Millions upon millions of people that have gone off to college have been scammed. They've been ripped off. Why is it that colleges and universities have programs that the program exists just for itself? That the degree that you can get does not have any job that you can get outside of, does not have a degree that you, let me reword that. Why are there degrees that exist that cannot get you a job that you could get without that degree? That should not be possible. In fact, I am a big advocate that there should be very few degrees. For instance, one of the things I was interested in before was physical therapy. It used to be, in order to practice physical therapy, all you needed was an associate's degree. And then it became a bachelor's degree. And then they may have gone master's, but I almost want to say they skipped master's. No, it was master's. And then a doctorate. Wow. Now, why is it they couldn't have tiered that? So to say that, you know what? If you just want to do the physical therapy part, just be somewhere and be qualified, associates. And if you want to go, just have a little bit more knowledge about it, bachelor's. And if you want to maybe start, I don't know, teaching, master's. And if you want to actually do innovative research, well, you need your doctorate for that. Okay, why is it you have to go all in, full-fledged doctorate for a degree like that? That is absolutely ridiculous. Especially since I've talked to trainers and so forth that have gotten like a bachelor's degree, I think, that can do the same level of work as a physical therapist inside of a practice. And again, that's not to disparage physical therapists. I love physical therapy. I think it's great. It helped me out tons and tons over the past number of months. On the same token, I don't understand why it's got to be a doctorate program for practical purposes, but why does it got to be a doctorate program? Well, you guessed it, because the university wants the money. They want your money. They want to keep you in school as long as possible to rack up your money. And so you have to ask yourself the question, why are there these useless degree programs? Why do they keep on escalating how much education needs to go into getting a job that you could have gotten an associate's for back in the day that isn't going to be life-threatening if you don't have a doctorate? I mean, I think that these questions should be asked. And then on top of that, I think the universities, quite frankly, need to be investigated. Take Harvard, for instance. They are no longer, if I'm not mistaken, no longer receiving federal dollars for their programs, for their university. Now, in reserve, they have something like $50+ billion of their own money that they don't want to spend. What is this money going toward? Well, I think that's worth investigating. What is this money going toward, if not toward the programs that it's supposed to be going toward? I mean, and some things go without saying. I remember, yes, you know what? I am going to throw Cleveland State University under the bus. I have no problem doing. I loved my education out there. I love Cleveland State University as an institution, for the sake that that's my alma mater. But on the same token, I remember when I left there, the first thing I hear about is the new president's mansion being built. Now, it's not new anymore. It's been years since that happened. But, this huge building for the president of Cleveland State University. Money going to things like that just to make the campus nicer. And don't get me wrong, I am all for nice campuses. I am all for marketing. And it's not lost on me that advertising dollars are important. They are very important. But I remember, so this is kind of a dovetail. I remember in listening to, I think it might have been the Dave Ramsey program. It's either that or the Maxwell Leadership podcast. I can't remember. But they were talking about Chick-fil-A and the founder of Chick-fil-A. And when these rival companies started springing up to challenge the quality of food, to challenge the business that Chick-fil-A was doing. Other businesses, I'm trying to think of what their names are. Well, I mean, these days, Raising Cane's is probably one of those. I can't remember. There's one. There's very, very something Market, Boston Market, I think it was, being one of the companies. But you just think places like, like KFC, they've been around a long time, though. But as these new places started to pop up, after Chick-fil-A had already been established, everybody knew the reputation of Chick-fil-A, and these other places, their competitors started taking ground. They had a meeting where I can't remember the guy's, the founder's name, but they're in a meeting, and his son was telling this story about they're in this meeting, and all the people inside of this room meeting together to try to figure out a strategy to conquer their competition, to outperform their competition. So they say, you know what, we need more stores, and we need more this, and we need more that. We need to take more ground, and yada, 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 so on and so forth. Okay? And the founder of Chick-fil-A stood up, and he said, I don't want to hear another word about becoming a bigger business, about having more locations. I want us to focus on having a better product. Did you get that? A better product. And Chick-fil-A today is flourishing, that they are doing good. In fact, over time, now they've been able to expand. A few years ago, Findlay, Ohio, well, it's been a number of years now, but a bit ago, Findlay, Ohio, did not have a Chick-fil-A, and my understanding is they're talking about another Chick-fil-A inside of Findlay. So 2 Chick-fil-A's. Why? Because they focused on their product. Now, universities. Instead of focusing your efforts on, say, getting more professors and getting bigger campuses, maybe what you should be doing, and just bigger buildings for your president, for crying out loud, maybe focus a little more attention on quality programs, graduating your students, getting them the degrees they want, and also being able to find placements for them in the workforce, inside of their career field. And I know that one right there is probably the hardest, but really, what is it that universities brag about the most? Do they brag about, hey, we have this many students at our university? Or do they say, hey, if our graduates are 95% of our graduates are working inside their career field within a year or two after graduating. Well, gee whiz, I think that sounds way more appealing than, hey, we have the most students in the country going to our university. Well, that's great. That means that you have lots of people that are going to be in debt for a really long time. So I think that there needs to be a little bit more sympathy. Again, I get it. And we need to make sure that conservatism is being promoted on college campuses. And by that, I just mean common sense policies, common sense thinking, personal responsibility, eternal values, just pure good conservative values and reasoning needs to be applied to every situation. So if you took out a loan, like it or not, you owe the money back. That's just the nature of taking out a loan. And maybe that's something that needs to be emphasized a little bit more before students go off to college. I remember one of my teachers in high school said, oh, student, you should go to college no matter whether you plan to or not, because it's more affordable than ever because of all the student loan programs that are out there these days. And the interest is so low, by the way, so it's perfectly worth it. Wait. Okay, so conservative reasoning would be, if you have to take out a loan, it's not affordable. If you have to take out a loan, it's not affordable. Because if you have to take out a loan, that means you don't have the money to pay for it. And so you've really got to count the cost as to whether the loan is going to be worth it in the long run. And the reason why college education is being demolished these days, is falling apart these days, the universities are probably, if I'm not mistaken, record low attendance, record low enrollers, whatever. That people are enrolling in record lows. Well, that's because people have caught on that a college education, unless you're planning on being a doctor, a lawyer, or something that absolutely requires a higher level of education in order to perform in a career field, well, it's just not worth it. But these 18-year-olds that are being told they must go to college if they ever want to have a good career, we need to make it clear to them that, well, no, that's not true. And yes, it's possible that if you go to college, you will have the potential to make more money than if you didn't. It's more likely. But there are some people that never gone to college that make way more money and that are able to make way more money, but it's based on their own initiative and what sort of lifestyle that they want to be living. And at the end of the day, we just need to get rid from our minds idolatry and covetousness, and to learn how to be content with what we've got. Because we should not be promoting programs where students go into debt to begin with. That is a crime. And by the way, that is something that started a while back in the fact that we have normalized debt so much that when a potential student hears that, oh, it's a $30,000 a year program or whatever, or a $15,000 a year program, their mind shouldn't be like, it's okay, I'm taking out a loan. It should be, maybe I should wait a few years, make a little money, and make that choice once I'm a little more financially capable. This is the Bill Sang Podcast. My name is Bill Sang. The song you are listening to right now is by Daniel Pennell. It's called You Are the Light. I'd like to thank you for joining me for today's Bill Sang Podcast. Be blessed.
You reign on high, your love never fades. Forever we worship the one who saves. Jesus, we lift your name on high. trees lift their voice. Creation resounds, we join in, rejoice.